What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. We got some more Zefra Infernity action. This is the sequel to yesterday's video, but this time it's personal. My boy Zylvonuts actually hooked us up with some really cool replays, and I will be showing off the deck profile in this video, maybe explaining some things that weren't completely evident in the replays and some things that people might have some questions about. And Zylvonut is actually an aspiring Yugi tuber. If you guys like supporting smaller channels, helping them grow, especially other like really small Yugi tubers, just kind of showing them love, and you like this type of content where you see these kind of crazy deck ideas from innovative deck builders, I would highly suggest that you guys check his channel out, and I would just appreciate that. I'm going to have a link to his channel in the description below so you guys can find it easily. Now let's talk about yesterday's video for just a quick second. I think the reaction to yesterday's video was so positive because people have not really seen Infernities doing a lot of big things. They haven't seen them kind of popping off in years. Again, it's been 2014 since we last saw Infernities as like a highly competitive deck, and that was like I think that was when Soul Charge was at 3. It was like the XC version with like Lavava chain, so things have just massively changed. But this deck has so much synergy, and I don't know why people are saying that this deck is not consistent. Do you know how much search ability that Zefra have? The deck has fucking 6 rotas. Like, Zefra have so much search ability, it's actually stupid. This deck is not only consistent, but the amount of back row that you can put, like the amount of searchable counter traps in this deck, is actually pretty damn disgusting. So I'm gonna roll this one now. This first replay isn't obviously, it's not against the best competition. I mean, this guy pretty much just plays quick fix, and he hopes that his Max C is going to not get him OTK'd, but no, against a deck like this, like just hoping that you don't get OTK'd is like not enough, man. Max C is not something that this deck gives a fuck about, and you know this deck is ready to go off when it does this specific play. Once it summons Stardust Charge Warrior into Oracle of Zefra, that's when the deck is ready to start going off, because again, it will stack Archfiend on top of the deck. It's going to immediately draw the Archfiend, and then it can special summon Archfiend. It can basically get to, you know, kind of where it wants to go, and it can basically just start exploding. Now, he already had Launcher, so he doesn't need to search that, and I mean, he's pretty much just free to search Beetle. Beetle being a level 2 means that the synchro plays with the level 6s are super good. He just searches so many different counter traps. He's able to bring out 2 more copies of Beetle. He's able to bring out Void Ogre Dragon, which is a stun card you guys didn't even see yesterday, but it kind of serves the same type of purpose as something like Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. You see he played Launcher, but then he gets it right back with the Nirvana High Paladin, and from here his opponent has basically no chance of survival. He's going to throw out the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon for good measure, and again, we're just going to size up this board at the end of the turn, and we count what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 cards. This is another +5 field, guys, turn 1. But like, even more absurd, this field is probably even better than the one you guys saw yesterday. I mean, he has basically 3 fucking Infernity barriers. Like, you guys know how long it's been since people have basically, because Zefra Divine Strike is an Infernity barrier. Basically, it's a card that when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, you can banish a face-up Zefra in your extra deck. You negate the activation of that card and destroy it. So when you have an original Infernity Barrier and then you have 2 Divine Strikes, as long as your extra deck is filled up, and it always will be because of cards like Grammatron, you just have, like, you have so much negation. You combine that with a free spell and trap negate from Void Ogre Dragon and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Like, what are you doing to a field of Crystal Wing, Void Ogre Dragon, and 3 Infernity Barriers? Like, I am waiting for an answer, because some people say that if you attack the Archfiend, somehow the field dies. I'm like, bro, you realize he still got like 2 more barriers, plus a Crystal Wing and a Void Ogre Dragon, plus he can like still potentially pay. He still has full skills too. Like, come on, man. This deck is too damn explosive. And again, people saying that the deck is not consistent, like, you don't understand that Zefra basically have like 6 copies of rotas. I mean, you see that he's able to activate Providence and then go straight into Oracle to Zefra and basically just thin his deck out so much. That means that the cards that he can just kind of get to his combo pieces a lot quicker. Now, in this video, he does actually use Soul Charge, so I know a lot of people saw that in yesterday's. I got super triggered, man. It was so many people in yesterday's video that did not watch the video. They just assumed that it was a Soul Charge play, and they just like, oh, cap, it's done to Soul Charge replay. By the way, I just want to show, or I just want to talk about for one quick second. Red Resonator's effect to gain life points is so underrated, and I think a lot of people do not even know that that effect exists. But I mean, why wouldn't you just want to get like 1900 life, like free 1900 life points? Like, what deck is gonna say no to that? So you see, he has Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Here he's gonna just activate Soul Charge, which of course will activate the Infernity Archfiend, giving him his Infernity Launcher. He then sets it so he can go from Ultimaya, and then he can bring out Void Ogre Dragon. I don't think he's going to play Launcher twice in his turn, but it's still a very strong play. It isn't as strong as some of the Nirvana High Paladin openings where you get to play Launcher twice, but really he just kind of ran out of room. Like, believe me, if he would have had more room where he could just like keep on special summoning, I think he would have done things a little differently, but you still end the field pretty good. I mean, you still have, anytime that you can have 2 Infernity Barriers, plus you can have a Crystal Wing and a Void Ogre Dragon. I mean, these are fields that are basically immune to Kaijuing, because even if you do Kaiju one card, you're still looking at having to deal with 2 barriers plus maybe Void Ogre Dragon plus maybe Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and you still have to kill your Kaiju as well. So this is a deck that can be super explosive turn 1, and let me go ahead and show you guys pretty much like the deck profile. Now here's what the Infernity Zefra deck actually looks like on paper, and even though it does appear to be a bit of a jumbled mess, I promise you everything in this deck actually does have a place, and it actually has a reason. One of my favorite things about this deck is it does feel extremely deceptive. It feels like you're showing your opponent just a pure Zefra build, because a lot of the cards that you activate in the early stages of your turns are things like Terraforming and Oracle of Zefra, Zefra Providence, even things like Grammatron. So your opponent basically thinks, oh, okay, I guess he's just playing a regular old, Zefra deck or whatever, and then you summon Stardust Charge Warrior under Oracle of Zefra, you stack Infernity Archfiend on top of your deck, and then you draw it, and your opponent's like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't understand. Can you just hold up for a second? Why are you playing that card? And you start popping off with Infernity Archfiend, summoning like your Beetle, searching the Infernity Launcher, playing it twice with Nirvana High Paladin, and your opponent basically just like their world just collapses, their head starts spinning, and they don't even understand what the fuck is even going on. And then you will basically end with these fields of like Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend Abyss, and like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon with Ultima Maya and Void Ogre Dragon and all this crazy shit. And your opponent doesn't really understand what's going on, but it doesn't actually take you running like 10 different Infernity cards. And even though the Infernity engine isn't all that big in this deck, this does still feel like a throwback Infernity deck. Some of you guys might remember the 2014 Infernity deck, the one that actually won Worlds, the one that I think got 6th place at North American Nationals. Like, that was an Infernity deck from the Zexal era, and it was based around Soul Charge, the Laval Chain, and it was kind of like an Exceed version using like a whole bunch of Exciton Knights. Well, this is the original like way that Infernity used to play when they were based around like level 6s and level 8s, and it was more of a synchro based deck. In fact, some of you guys might be wondering, where's Infernity Necromancer? Infernity Necromancer could hypothetically work in this deck, but it wouldn't have all that much synergy. Yes, it would be able to summon back Infernity Archfiend or Infernity Beetle. The problem is it would just be a level 3, and it would just kind of sit on the field, and it wouldn't be able to, like, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. This deck is primarily predicated on being able to go into level 8s. That's why you guys kept seeing cards like Void Ogre Dragon, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and just being able to get everything off of the board so that you can basically summon it back from Soul Charge, or say so that you can summon it back from Infernity Launcher. I mean, most of the versions that ran Infernity Necromancer also ran Infernity Avenger, so that they could perfectly go into 8, so that they could also go into things like 100 Eyes Dragon and Copy Mirage and stuff like that. But if you ran Necromancer in this build, it just wouldn't, like, it really just wouldn't fit. Like, you'd have to adjust the build so much, it just honestly wouldn't make sense. When it comes to the extra deck, there are so many cool plays that this deck can actually do, not just the obvious stuff like the Nirvana High Paladin or the Ultima Maya, but being able to go into Chao Feng if you're playing against a deck that's like dark, being able to just lock them out of like everything, their ability to just play Yu-Gi-Oh! You could just completely destroy a deck like that. Going into Chao Feng is a deck that can shut down entire decks where they're just like, all right, well, we can't really do anything, so I guess we'll just scoop. The Pixie Dragon is only in here. Some of you guys be like, why is Pixie Dragon in here? You're not going to synchro for level 7. You just told us that this deck is primarily, level 6 and level 8 focus. Pixie Dragon is really just in here to summon off of Ultima Maya, and then you can use one of your level 2 tuners, your Red Resonator or your Infernity Beetle, and you can actually go into the much better Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This card is still so good. It's a shame that so few decks in the meta can actually summon it. Like, you really only see this card summoned in like Buster Blader and this deck as well. Now, some of you guys might be wondering why a card like Duelist Advent is in here, because yeah, there's actually only like one target. It's the Pendulum Mucho, but the reason that this card is in here and the reason why you need to kind of search it is it allows you to summon your level 2s. Like, it allows you to pendulum summon things like Beetle and Red Resonator when they could be stuck in your hand. Obviously, it's an Infernity deck. You absolutely cannot have cards stuck in your hand. Like, you need to be able to pendulum summon every fucking thing in this entire deck, and being able to pendulum summon level 2s, because this guy is a pendulum scale scale of 0 is actually pretty useful. I guess there is an odd chance that you might be able to activate its effect. It probably will come up, I don't know, maybe 1 out of every 10 duels, because you can possibly get one of your pendulums back from the graveyard, but like you have to kind of like go into like an exceed, like you'd have to go into like Dark Rebellion using like a couple of your level 4s and whatnot. Now my personal favorite thing about this deck is obvious. It's the counter traps. It's the fact that this deck basically allows you to run just multiple versions or multiple copies, I guess both at the same time, of Infernity Barrier. This is a card that Konami hated when they made it. They basically limited it and they tried to kill Infernities, but they made a whole bunch of clones of Infernity Barrier, and it's just, maybe it's just apropos, maybe it's, I don't know, convenient justice that you can run all of these cards in this deck, and every single one of them is searchable. Obviously, Infernity Barrier is searchable through Archfiend, but Nine Branches and Zefra Divine Strike, they're both searchable through this card Secret. So it's really good if you can actually draw one of these like in your opening hand, because like there's a 90% chance you're going to search like Barrier, and then if you can search one of these other cards, then it's like you've basically got 3 barriers and your opponent just like, they're probably just not going to be able to get through that, especially if you have like Chao Feng plus a 9 branches. Like worst case scenario, you might have to give up your Chao Feng, but you could just be locking them down at the same exact time. I don't know. I think this deck is super cool. I think that this deck has a lot of undervalued cards. Like Red Resonator is a card that I've always thought was really good. Its life point gain effect isn't that important in this deck because you don't play like instant fusion. You don't play really anything outside of Soul Charge that costs life points. But I mean, that could be kind of important. You guys saw in the first replay how he was able to basically just, you know, get like 1900 life points for free. Also, don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure that I'm right, but I'm almost certain that if you don't activate the life point effect, that this guy can trigger Infernity Archfiend if you just like set everything and then you summon this off Infernity Archfiend. I'm pretty sure that it can actually activate Archfiend's effect. I'm pretty sure it won't make it miss timing. I know that if you activate his life point effect, then obviously it will miss timing. It's like the old way that people used to cheat with Infernity Archfiend back in the day. They used to like stack it on top of their deck with Vaval Chain, then they'd activate Upstart and then they draw it and summon it and be like, nah bro, that's cheating. It actually ends up making it miss the timing. So anyways, I think that this is a super fun deck, and best of all, for anybody who's interested in playing this, you won't be able to play it now because obviously this comes out in Maximum Crisis and Providence comes out in Maximum Crisis as well. Pendulum, what's it called? Pendulum Mucho is another card from Maximum Crisis. So you won't be able to play this deck fully until Maximum Crisis. Don't even try it. Like, don't even bother around with it until these cards come out. But I think that this is going to be an extremely budget deck. I mean, really, I think Grammatron might be like a high value or a high rarity card, but I don't think it'll honestly cost that much. Oracle Zefra is no more than like a $6 card. And outside of the Crystal Wings, which yes, technically you could just drop 1 Crystal Wing and play like 2 of them and maybe throw in a Stardust Dragon or something like that, nothing in this deck is really all that expensive. If you guys are wondering why Infernity Break is in the side deck, I was actually talking to Zio, and he said that it's really good. He was like, it's kind of just up to you as the player, you know, do like, you could easily drop like 1 copy of 9 Branches and then you could put the Infernity Break in here, like, and it would perfectly work out. I mean, basically Infernity Break is to kind of protect your Archfiend, to make it so that people can't just summon like a 1900 beater, attack over your Archfiend, and then make your Infernity Barrier dead. But in general, you will like have so many counter traps, and you'll have so much other shit on the board like Void Ogre, Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend, Abyss, Starlight, no, not Starlight, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, that the Infernity Barrier is probably the least of their worries or the least of their problems anyway. So I don't know. I think this deck is really fun. If you guys enjoyed it, please give the video a big thumbs up. Again, check out Zio Volnuts, trying to help my boy grow so that he can provide you guys with more crazy ideas and more crazy content like this. And let me know what you guys thought of this video. Whatever you did, leave that in the comment section below. I mean, I like Zefra. I think that they're a cool archetype. I still don't quite understand the lore of Zefra and how they fit into the Dual Terminal 3, but I'm sure when Konami releases the Master Guide, it'll be fully explained. Anyways, thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe if you have not already.